get into this 2025 season for the Baltimore Paladins. We're going to go back and take a look at a lot of changes that we went through last season. First of all, we did not have the season we expected. We went 7-9, did not make the playoffs. After that, we made some adjustments. Wade Wise was an aging linebacker. Tight end Toby Clark got traded to Dallas for a starting tight end in Stewart, Washington, and a first-round pick. Wide receiver Charles Foster was out 9 weeks with a disc injury. And our first-round pick, which we'll talk about in a little bit, kind of a bust, actually. Nicholas Ritchie spent 6 weeks out with an MCL. What we elected to do after a 2-5 start is go back to the normal practice intensity, and we actually looked at addressing some issues after the season with passing yards and offensive yardage we were giving up. It just seemed like our defense was mid-pack, but we weren't generating pressure on quarterbacks. So in the offseason, we released quarterback Jesse Poole, halfback Jack Russell, offensive lineman Darren Harris, and defensive lineman Todd Porter. We actually re-signed every player with a less than what they initially offered contract. So everyone basically took a pay cut for us, including defensive lineman Donnie McDaniel, linebacker Samuel Luttrell, who we got from Minneapolis in a trade a few seasons back, linebacker Javier Pratt, and defensive back Dustin Dunn. We did have that second first-round pick from Dallas. We used it, which was actually the number 2 overall pick, to draft defensive lineman David Phelps. We used our first-round pick to draft wide receiver Jonathan Valdez. Garrett Padilla was our second-round pick, a defensive lineman. Alan Andrews, a linebacker, in round 3. Nicholas Casey, a defensive back, in round 4. And interesting, in round 5, we drafted Mario Mills. However, after the draft, he demanded a very large salary, and we subsequently released him and did not see him in free agency. So it appears he just is gone. Did not want to play football, which, based on the contract he was wanting, was not going to happen with us. Noah Jenkins was a defensive lineman in the 6th round, and John Guerra was a running back in the 7th round. From a coach's standpoint, obviously we talked about the struggles on offense. Our offensive coordinator, Seth Warthberg, was replaced by Francisco Rivera, and our special teams coordinator, we signed Sheldon Potter. In free agency, fan favorite, tons of subliminals available now, we signed defensive lineman Gerald Ho to complement our first number 1 draft pick, Billy Ho. So we now have 2 Hoes on the line. These Hoes are not here to play. Make all the jokes you want. They're going to know that we're bringing Hoes to this party. He signed a $6 million 5-year deal. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Ritchie being a bust at defensive back for a first-round pick. We revamped our scouting in the West and Southeast to across-the-board focus on defensive backs. And we also went ahead and made a $20 million practice field upgrade to try to help with morale and injuries. So you can see here last season, we actually picked up just a bit in our player salaries, a little bit in our coaches' salaries, and a little bit in our facilities. However, we went back and bought the scouting report since we had those 2 first-round picks. So a pretty expensive year last year to actually have such little success, especially coming out of the 2023 season where, we made the playoffs without our starting quarterback. So it's a little bit troubling to see how things have went. So what we're going to go ahead and do is let a couple of these games roll through, but be very cautious with our scouting because we know it is important to get the best defensive backs we can. Start 0-1, and this is going to be kind of an elongated series because we are going to go back every single time and look for these defensive backs because it is imperative we get someone that can start. And you can just see when we went through the scouting report this year, there were not supposed to be any good defensive backs in this draft class. And it appears that is holding true. So across the board, I think no matter how much we commit to searching for these players, we're not going to find what we want. But that doesn't mean we're not going to go through every single way that we can. So really every 3 weeks to max and get as much of an idea of these players' quality as we can because, even if we get a higher round pick, we're going to have to focus on getting at least one, if not more than one, defensive back out here. So we'll go through here and just try to figure out where the best defensive back is going to be. And it seems like every time we go to scout one, they fall further and further down the list. So it looks like right now our best option here is going to be in the Southeast, which is what was projected. But we're still not really in a position, I think, to feel comfortable in taking one of these players with a high pick. But what we will do is make sure that we at least guess the best we can on the other positions. So right now we're 3-1. I didn't see any injuries yet. And what's interesting here is it looks like Clayton Mckinney was the player of the week. And I believe that's the first time, at least on offense, we've had a player of the week in all of our seasons. So 17 rushes, 130 yards, but 3 touchdowns. So we definitely know where the game of the week came from because he didn't really do all that much in other areas. So we will go ahead and go through here, just kind of treading water, 4-2, still no injuries. Go ahead and take a look at these defensive backs and just make sure we're doing as absolute much as we can for these guys. And it's going to be interesting to me when we get to the draft to see how high these players are. A lot of times what we found is no matter how much we scout some of these players, now granted, we also weren't doing this totally the correct way before. It's interesting to see just how poor some of these players are on the board itself. So we will continue here to simulate out, although this looks like, unless we really start to fall apart, we'll have a successful season. Looks like Sebastian McCarthy, our head coach we just signed, has now got a badge earned for the locker room hero, which increases the overall morale of the team, which is great. At the same time, we really haven't had morale issues the entire games that we've been playing. It seems like we bounced back pretty well, and we actually really even have not had to go out and purchase anything as far as upgrades are concerned with the concept of simply trying to increase the morale. We do have 2 injuries now. Omar Cruz, this is going to be the second injury for him, and Angelo Thompson. Neither of these are starting players, but I do just want to take a look at stats real quick in terms of our team leaders. We haven't done this, but I'm very interested to see how our Hoes are holding up. So it looks like Gerald Ho, 35 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 receptions. Well, that can't be receptions. I'm not sure what the REC is. I can't imagine we're wasting our Hoes out here catching passes, but it looks like both of them are having that's recoveries then. Okay, well that makes sense. So it looks like they've both done a good job at recovering fumbles. So listen, good job out of both of our Hoes here. And we've got them both term deals, so we're going to have these Hoes for a long time. You're going to get a lot of Ho jokes with this. Just apologize in advance. Continuing along here, we're going to go through 8-2 season, and then we're going to go heavy on these recruits and just go down to the bottom of the barrel on some of these guys. It's also maybe something where we're going to have to go out in free agency and just all or nothing. I don't really feel like we're in a position with players to trade. We've got a pretty young group of players, and I think we need to keep what we've built. But at some point, we've got to get our defensive backs under control, even if it means just selling out, letting go of some draft picks, even this year perhaps. I guess we'll have to see. That might be the best game plan we have, is understanding the first-round pick does not appear to be a factor in what we're doing. So maybe, I don't know if there is any actual waiting period as far as weeks are concerned to trade, but let's see what team has a good defensive back and see if it will let us trade one in the middle of the season and maybe get rid of the first-round pick that we probably will not be using. So we've got Donald Harmon here. This is going to be a pain to go through because it does not allow you to switch. So let's think of a different way to do this. Let's go over to league leaders. Let's go over to defensive leaders. Let's take a look at who the leading defensive backs are. So Las Vegas has a K. Coleman Sr., and Vancouver has a Lucas. So we will start off by looking at Las Vegas and see if we can't get a trade settled with them. Las Vegas. Let's see how old he is first. 32 years old. That's not going to happen. So that's not good. Go back, take a look, and just see who the other two were. Lucas and Reed. Lucas and Reed. We'll see if we get... Trying to remember the images more than the actual team. All right, I know one of them was for Philadelphia. Lucas or Reed? It's very odd because I don't see... He might be a linebacker. He is. Okay. So Vancouver was the other leader. 32-year-old Eli Lucas. I mean, it's just not going to work. Mackenzie Brady. That may not be the best idea. Well, I guess we'll have to see what comes to us in free agency, perhaps. I don't know that a trade midway through the season when we're 9-2 is going to be the best concept. Looks like I am injured. Fantastic. So I have a sprained ankle, and I'm going to be out 4 weeks. I was our starting safety, and Angelo Thompson is still just nursing around this sprained ACL. It's the first time I've been injured in the game. So we will go out here and take a look at defensive backs. But I still feel like our best option is going to be, I mean, you can just look at these players, guaranteed to be no better than a C, perhaps a C+. That's a full scout on everyone but Ricardo Wilkins, and he seems to be the only one that's viable. It's going to be interesting if you go back and look. When we signed a fourth-round player, fifth-round player even perhaps, my cousin, he was a C, and yet our number one pick was a C as well. So we are going to go in 9-3. I'm pretty sure we've made the playoffs here with the number one seed. I would hate to actually pick this year to be promoted. So I kind of thought maybe this would be a little bit easier than it was to go out and get promoted. But now I'm kind of hoping we don't get promoted to go to a more difficult league, because clearly we're not ready. We just don't have the consistency that we need. I mean, we have young players, which is really important in terms of team building, but we just don't have quality players. And we're trying to continually find little stop gaps to fill in where we're struggling. And that's just no way to build a team in any way. Real or video game. You can't do what we're doing and be successful. I mean, even right now, we're trying to force the best defensive backs available. You know, if they're not available, they're not available. No matter how much time we waste, it's not going to change the fact, the players that we're looking for aren't of starting caliber. We're just going to take other position opportunities away from ourselves. We are going to finish, it looks like, number one in the division, though, which means we will take an 11-4 season. 12-4 season? Can't see because the simulating match is in the way. So we will take a 12-4 season into the playoffs again. We're going to have New York here, who's 9-7. I'm hoping we can win this game, and it looks like we do. So it's going to be the deepest we've got into the playoffs. We'll do a real quick injury check because the last time we got this far, our quarterback was injured. So here we go. 12-2 Vancouver versus 13-4 Indy. We are in the championship game. So we will play the Miami Warriors and run the risk of actually being advanced to Tier 3. This is something I've noticed with this game happening a lot. Miami is 5-11, so I'm not sure how they snuck into the playoffs, but they will be playing a 14-4 Baltimore team. And we will win. We are the Tier 3 champions. We have won the tier promotion game, and we will be going into Tier 2. This was not what did happen, but it is here. So we have a couple things we have to deal with. The first thing is going to be unsigned coaches, and honestly, I feel like we've just wasted a whole season, and we're going to spend time getting demoted. So we have to, we're just keeping our scouts. Is this guy serious? Ruben Norris? Ruben Norris doesn't want a job. So we're just going to keep the scouts that we have for right now, only because I don't feel like we're getting the most out of the actual scouting we're doing. So I'm going to have to go back and look at different ways to handle scouting and see if we can't be a little bit more intricate with what we're doing. As far as retirees, Drew Webb, one of our defensive backs, is retired. Obviously no coaches there. So we will go ahead out into the draft with a focus on a defensive back that is probably not going to be there. But I would think that we would have every defensive back scouted here along the top picks, and we do. So this is actually refreshing. You know, we went through and selected many of them. I wonder if, summary, there was a defensive back taken ahead of us. Yes, Ricardo Wilkins, who was actually the player we were looking at, Vancouver actually picks him right before us. Unbelievable. Thank you, Vancouver. So, I mean, listen, we're here now. Might as well do the thing. Darian Patrick, round 1. Go back and take a look and see if a whole bunch left are on the board. Alejandro Wade has the speed that we need. Is there anything else that's jumping out at us? Not necessarily. So, can't spend all those points and have it for naught. How did we get I guess Lucas Shaw was one of the ones we just accidentally hit the button on, or I did. I can't blame you guys for that. So here we are, more defensive backs that we scouted. All right, well, I don't want to continue to draft defensive backs that are probably going to be garbage. So let's try to get some decent players available here. Grayson Pagan has A speed, so we're going to make that happen. Don't really see anything but a bunch of mediocre players. A lot of C+ players. See if there's any fast linebackers here we can work with. Connor Montgomery. Let's see how far down Connor Montgomery is. We've done this before where we went back and we've been able to pull players pretty deep. This is the 4th round. I think that's way too much for a player like that, but we're going to keep Connor in our mind and we're going to go forward. And let's try to see if there's not a fast halfback available here. Corbin Blake might be a little bit too far down as well. So let's stick with those two players. We'll take the best running back available now, and then we'll go back and see if these players aren't still available. Why do I already forget their names is the problem. Corbin Blake is still there. I don't believe that player we were just looking at is, though. He's not. This is going to be round 5. So, Matthew Watt has A awareness, which has actually generally been pretty decent for us. Let's see if that running back is still there. Corbin Blake is there. We'll take him with the second to last pick. And then the last pick. Might as well get a decent blocking lineman. It'll be between Linton and Graham Austin. Looks like Ronnie Moreno. So all those players are pretty much together. Graham Austin is a little higher in awareness, a little higher in agility, just about as fit, just as slow. I think we're going to go with Graham Austin. So that'll wrap this draft up. Hey, look, you can see there's a B and a C+. So it isn't like we really hurt ourselves. And we actually kept C's throughout the whole thing. So for better or worse, that's where we are. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the players we have to re-sign. This is our starting quarterback. Johnny Poole has been a decent quarterback for us. I think we need to keep Max, maybe out on a longer-term deal. We're going to go and let Jaylen go. Taking a look at receivers here. Running backs. I would think that Colby is probably able to be let go unless he wants a really cheap contract. And, 4 years, $4 million will do that. It's going to be the end of his career with us, I believe. That'll put him out to about 32. But let's sign these young guys for depth as well. Nash wants a shorter contract. Maybe he just wants more money. He just wanted more money. Corbin Blake. Go over to receivers. Raymond Jefferson. I feel like it's time to let Raymond go unless he would take a really shallow deal. Let's give him the option to stay 2 years. Let's do 2 years at $10.25 million or $10.2 million. All right, we'll give him one bump up on the money, maybe two. All right, then we're going to go and let Raymond walk, and we'll re-sign. We'll sign. All right, everybody wants more money. Okay, everyone wants more money or less years. All right, Grayson, you're quickly entering Mario territory there to not be signed there, Chief. So this was the player we actually got in the trade. So I feel like that's a lot of money to offer him, but we did give up for him. So offensive line. Start off by signing the rookie. Going to look at Lucas Winston, 32. Darren Morris, 27. Gary Knight, 29. Don't really want to have 2C players here, so I think it's going to come down to who wants less money. Lucas Winston wants $1.4 million for 4 years. Gary Knight wants $900,000. Let's see if he'll do a 4-year deal. That's going to seal Lucas Winston's fate. He's also the older player. We're going to go ahead. I'm okay with giving Darren Morris that money. Going to go over to defensive line. Matthew Watt. Can't have Watt brothers and Ho brothers. It just isn't going to work. But we'll deal with Matthew Watt. Brennan Steele has been pretty much a stud for us. Clark Peters. Last year I went through and I said this was the end of Clark Peters. And unless he is willing to take a significant pay cut, it is going to be the end. That is way too much money, Clark. Let's see if you can do the last 2 years of your Axis football career for $12 million. So this is it, buddy. You just won a championship with us. I believe this is one of our original players. A lot of jerseys in the stands have Peters number 98. We'll give you one opportunity to stay. All right, buddy. See you later. Have a good career. It ain't going to be here. You can see both of our hoes here ready to go on 3 and 4 year deals. No linebackers up. Got these defensive backs we've been working on, scouted all year. Darren Patrick wants a lot of money, but you know what? We'll give it to you. Alejandro Wade, welcome aboard. Welcome to our defensive back rotation where you're automatically one of the best we have. And let's go take a look at what we can do in free agency. We got $239 million here. So I certainly feel like I do some type of damage. Going to go and start the next season and enter the scary world of Tier 2. I guess before we actually look at the free agents, let's look at where we are with the facilities. Do have to get fans in the seats here. Do also want to make sure we upgrade something for our players. Don't believe it's going to be anything in the trainers area. Something has to improve here. So I think it's going to be the weight room. It's the only thing that we have is poor. It's $7 million, but we're going to do it. And then we have to make a decision for our fans. General seating or vendor areas. Well, the way we play, you want to stay in your seat. I don't know if they need food. We're going to update this general seating. It's another $3.6 million. But as I've talked about with this game, it's not just the initial upfront purchase. It's the operation cost as well. If you look at the vendor area, it's more to run those vendor areas. So you know what? We're going to actually make a commitment to our fans. We're going to upgrade the general seating. And even though we're not going to give them the best food, we're going to make sure they got a place to relieve themselves. We're going to upgrade our bathrooms too, and we'll deal with the vendor areas for sure in the off season. So that gives them better places to sit no matter what they have to do, whether they're dropping a deuce or watching the game. Now, free agency. we got to try to get some players in here that are going to bring some attention. Old players are not going to do that. Look at Jose Roethlisberger. It's an odd name to not have a quarterback with, but definitely have the AARP club formed out here with wide receiver group. Taking a look at tight ends, where I hate to say it, we're pretty much set at tight end. Offensive line, 28. Harry Castro, 23 years old. We're going to come back and revisit that. I feel like where we are with the bump up in tier, you can't have enough decent linemen. Defensive linemen at 30 years old, not interested. Linebackers, not interested. Defensive back, Jaylen Roy. Now, here's the thing. We spent all that time. We spent all those points. And we've got a guy right in front of us, 6'5", 194 pounds, doesn't even wear a defensive back number. A-plus agility, A-plus, A coverage, A-plus awareness, just lacking on the speed, Jaylen Roy. 28 years old. It's a lot of money to pay a corner. But let's give him 4 years, 16 point. Let's make it $17 million. That's a lot of money to give a corner. But there's a lot of other teams interested. Let's see if he takes it. He takes it. Let's go back. We'll take a real quick look at our line and see if we actually need. So we're pretty much B's across the board. Let me take a look at our practice squad and see if we've got anybody out there. No, we don't. So I feel like going to have to go make a play on that young lineman too. So Drew Reyes, let's give him another 4-year deal. There's some other teams interested. We'll bump it up to $3.8 million. I feel pretty confident in making these adjustments here. So let's go back to our roster. We're going to find out who we get to demote. So we're going to look at age first. Gary Knight's been with us a while, but Gary, I think we're going to have to set you out a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and bring in your place. We're going to have to sign him off the practice squad. So we're going to move Reyes up. We also have Graham Austin that should probably not quite be pulled up, but he's getting there. In fact, we'll take a look at our line real quick and make sure it's not something we want to do. I don't know. I think we'll be okay. I think we're going to be okay with this line. Let me get Corbin out of here and bring in Drew. So that is an improvement. And now we're going to go over here, look at defensive backs. And, the focal point, I know what everybody's saying. If we're looking at age, Ryan. Jeez, man. Do I really bench myself? I think I'm going to have to. So, all right. Well, you know what? It just shows the commitment we have. To putting the best team on the field. I'm going to bench myself, and I'm going to go ahead and take that big signing we just had, bring him on the squad. Jaylen Roy, demoted myself for you, but you know what? We want the best team on the field, and right now, I ain't putting the best team on the field. So, for anybody that says I ain't biased, I just benched myself in this game. Nicholas Ritchie, you're a disgrace, buddy. We are going to go ahead and put Jaylen Roy in. I think with speed, he would probably be best suited at safety. He is A+. Where would he be a total improvement? Over my cousin Keegan, right? So we're going to put Keegan out. That's going to give us a pretty balanced, I think, spread. A big part of me wants to actually demote Nicholas Ritchie just for being a first-round pick that failed on us. We're going to revisit him through the season, though. We're not going to let him get comfortable with that nickelback position for that first-round pick we drafted him at. We've also got our first-round pick over on the practice squad, too. So, with all that said, pretty interesting year. We definitely have an uphill road ahead of us. We won a championship game. We spent only slightly more than the years before. And as you can see, that $95 million in league share for winning that championship and the $15.45 million in playoff bonuses certainly came in handy with some of those free agents. We got a little bit younger, but we definitely got an uphill battle. in terms of the Tier 2. So appreciate you guys checking this out. I will be back in the week with more commentary.